Look like I'm about to drop the next big album here. This is way fancier than this channel's supposed to be, but I'm just trying out some new lighting, like some new setups for my main YouTube channel. So I figured, hey, while it's all set up, might as well just kind of do the video I've been looking to do. Just talk about the whole Texas move and all that stuff. And anyway, give me your feedback though. You like this look? I've been struggling with trying to figure out, like, do I like the angle better from that side over there, kind of that direction where you kind of see the chair a little bit, but then I don't always love the angles that I get lighting wise. So I tried like this little straight on angle instead. Would love your feedback. This channel is all about kind of, real life documentation. So if you like this straight on look and you think this is kind of cool, that'd be sweet. I got like pavo tubes on both sides so I can change the colors and all that. This video is off to a slow start, sorry. Okay, so this video is kind of going to be a little bit of an overall, I guess, life update, because I have not posted a long form, just talking to the camera style video in a while, just kind of talking about what all is going on in life right now. A lot of exciting things happen, and I haven't updated you guys kind of in a while because the main channel, like I said, just isn't really working anymore for that. But a lot has changed, and a lot of you have asked how things are going from a Scaling Creative perspective, from a pressure washing standpoint. Why did I move to Texas? Is my team still doing stuff in Pennsylvania? All that stuff. So I kind of wanted to update you, tell you a little bit about where we're at these days and how things are going, and really what went into the decision for me to kind of relocate out here to Texas. So let's start first with just life update stuff. Everything is going really, really well. Scaling Creative is still doing great. We've had one of our best years to date this year, so that's super exciting. My local team, specifically one of my main shooters, Ben, who is a great friend of mine, fantastic guy, just couldn't ask for a better dude. He is still living in Pennsylvania. He is really handling mostly our local clients. So we have like a handful of clients that we do ongoing content creation for in like the Pennsylvania area, specifically like Allentown area where we live. So he kind of really holds down that territory and does all the filming for those clients. And if we get any new clients that come from that area, he is able to maintain those, and he does fantastic. So I'm super, super thankful for him. Allison is my primary project manager, and she is still holding down the fort incredibly. She's just the best in terms of being able to keep us organized and keep us on task. So she's still crushing it. She's worked remote for many years now, so she is not even in the Lehigh Valley, Allentown area of Pennsylvania. So she's kind of just works from her house and does a fantastic job kind of keeping things organized. She edits, she delegates the tasks to various editors, and she kind of does a great job with that. So she's still there regardless. And then I'm out here in Texas now. We've actually been experimenting with some outsourced editing, which has been a fantastic new journey so far from us. It's really helped us to kind of scale some of the work that we're doing with specific types of clients. I'll maybe put out a video in a while about that, because it's been a cool experiment so far and it's been working really well. What's cool about how I've built Scaling Creative is that a decent amount of our work from Scaling Creative is either editing only, or it's national clients, which I do all the traveling for. So what's great about that is it doesn't really rely heavily on us being in a specific area. And that was kind of intentional to a point, not necessarily intentional like I knew I was moving to Texas anytime soon, years ago when I started to do this. But the whole thing that I continued to try to build was not making it solely reliant on a single person, specifically me, and not necessarily needing it to be in a specific location, because we've kind of built up a good client base where we actually have some clients where we do nothing but editing for. They do all their own shooting. They do stuff on Zoom and all different avenues like that, and we do all the editing for them. Then we have a bunch of national clients who I travel with, some of our speaker clients, our keynote clients, people like that, who I will travel and be with 3 to 4 times a year. And then we will just edit all their content and post things on social. And that's kind of how we take care of those. So there's only, 5 to 8 maybe local clients, specifically like in a area like Pennsylvania, that we film with bi-monthly-ish. So it kind of works out really well, because as I get into this conversation about what allowed me to move to Texas and why I chose to move to Texas, one of the great things about it was that we had flexibility to kind of go where we wanted, and it wasn't necessarily based on like where my clients are and where my clients were or whatever. It just was, something I could do. Now, the pressure washing company, Oddly Satisfying Pressure Washing, if you followed that journey a little bit, you know that I started a pressure washing company in 2021. And I've stopped personally doing any of the work in the Lehigh Valley area, that Allentown region. Someone actually took over that region entirely for me, and we're doing more of like a licensing agreement. So I will still be hands-on with helping create ads and to build the strategy specifically for how we get more business with that company, but he will actually run the entire company top to bottom himself. So I won't be there to pressure wash. None of my team will help. He is in charge of his own fleet, his own team, all his own work, even his own pricing, all that kind of stuff. And he's essentially just paying a licensing agreement to me to be able to use the name Oddly Satisfying and to be able to kind of build on what we've already done. At first, when I was knowing that I was going to relocate to a different area, I was actually planning on just kind of shutting the whole Pennsylvania operations down because I didn't really necessarily want to try to find someone to do it. I kind of just wasn't caring too much about like making sure that I kept it going. So I kind of was close to just shutting the whole thing down in Pennsylvania. And a buddy of mine, Nike, who's a great friend of mine, he actually took the Oddly Satisfying brand and one of our trucks down to Florida, to like the Jupiter area. And it's still there currently. And he's going to kind of be building the Jupiter, Florida region. He recently moved down there, and that's a great place for pressure washing. And so he's actually going to be building the company out in Florida. And then when I had kind of decided out of nowhere that I shouldn't say out of nowhere because it wasn't really out of nowhere, but when I officially decided I was going to move to Texas, I came across someone that I felt like actually had what it took to build Oddly Satisfying and to be able to run it, and had the motivation to run it in Pennsylvania and be able to potentially keep it going. And I was hesitant at first because I didn't know if I really wanted to do that. And I didn't really want to just have like a manager who was managing it, but I still had to kind of pay a lot of attention to it. I really wanted to be able to be kind of clear of the everyday and really just help with strategy and potentially help with some marketing stuff. And that was it. And so when I had a conversation with him, I mentioned the idea of, hey, I think that you have the drive and the potential to do this and to do it well. And he kind of was at a stage where he wanted to really build his own business and start something from scratch. He actually had done a little bit of pressure washing outside of the company. I kind of just thought about the idea of, hey, what if you just run the entire company entirely for me? It'll be yours and you can get to keep a good amount of money from the company because all you'll pay me is essentially a licensing fee. Yeah, it just ended up being a great conversation. We talked about a bunch of different things, figured out that it actually made sense, and that's the situation. So he's obviously not running it right this second because it's freezing cold there, but in the spring of 2026, he will start it up again. I will be really in charge of simply making sure that work continues to come in and help with marketing and help do what I think I do best. And then he'll just run the day-to-day operations. So that's kind of where that is. And I'm really not doing anything. I think when I go back to visit in Pennsylvania or when I visit in Florida, I'm sure I'll have a camera with me, and I plan on just kind of capturing some new content for the company here and there just to be able to obviously continue to create ads and continue to be able to support him in that way. But I'm not really doing the day-to-day, and that's a great thing because Texas isn't a fantastic location for pressure washing because it doesn't rain a lot, so you don't get a ton of moisture. And yeah, it's a whole nother rabbit hole of explaining how that business works. But Florida's a great location. Pennsylvania's a great location for it. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I'm not really doing any of the day-to-day anymore. And scaling creative and YouTube is really my primary focus now. So that brings us to Texas and why and how I ended up here. What's really neat is because of the flexibility that I have in my schedule to kind of be where I want, we started having conversations maybe a year or two ago of like, what would it potentially look like to relocate? We obviously have my side of the family in Pennsylvania, and then we have my wife's side of the family who was much more West Coast based, but most recently, two of the three of her closest family, her sister and her dad, both relocated to Texas, and then her other sister still lives in Arizona. When we were thinking about just our kids being 8 and 10 years old and kind of in a prime time of their life in terms of loving family time and cousins and all that kind of stuff, we felt like we really didn't have the best support out in Pennsylvania. So between my direct family and friends who were fairly busy, and we just felt like we didn't consistently have people that we could rely on to help watch the kids if we ever wanted date nights. We felt like most of our friends, though they were great friends and we loved hanging out with them and our kids loved hanging out with their kids, they were just always really busy. And it felt like we just were staying in Pennsylvania to be near people in situations that weren't actually happening how we kind of would have wanted them to happen anyway. So we kind of got to the reality that it was like Kelsey's side of the family is so different than my side of the family in just every aspect, but specifically the way they grew up and the way that they value family so much, and that there's just so much family time and hanging out together and no obligations of kind of what you're going to do. You just hang out because you like hanging out. And that was kind of very different than how I grew up. And so every single time we would go to visit them, we would just see how great it was to just hang out all the time and enjoy each other's company. And specifically, when we came and visited in April, so we came for Easter to visit in this specific part of Texas. I have been here many times. Kelsey had never been here. And I just kind of felt like, man, it would be a lot of fun to be around this side of our family more. Our kids had never really spent any time with her side of the family. When we moved to Arizona in 2010, when we first got married, and we lived there for 3 to 4 years before we moved back to Pennsylvania, we didn't have kids yet. So we got to spend time with her sister in Arizona who had their first kid, and that was fantastic. We loved being by them, but we just didn't have any kids ourselves. And when we came out here, though, during Easter time, and then also when her sister from Arizona visited us in the summer, I forget exactly when it was, we quickly realized we really liked, obviously, being by her side of the family. And so we talked about what would it look like if we just relocated and moved to Texas. I had the flexibility in my schedule to do it. The kids are at an age where, yes, they have a lot of friends, but when kids are in second grade, third grade, fourth grade, before middle school and high school, it's kind of easy for them to find new friends, build new friendships, and not really feel like they're leaving that much behind. So of course they were sad to leave their friends. Of course they miss their friends, but like as soon as a kid kind of relocates, they kind of forget entirely. So it's like they're quick to adapt, let's say that, compared to a high schooler who maybe had 15 years worth of friendships that now we're just going to nothing because they're in a brand new school or whatever. The kids are pretty easy to move about. And now they're by cousins that are their ages. They're in a different school district that they have met a ton of people. They love it. It just feels great now to be here. So we kind of knew they were at a stage where it would work for us to just relocate them. And we were kind of deciding between Florida and Texas. We have some family in Florida as well. We went and visited there for a couple weeks, and we really, really like Florida as well. And we were just debating whether or not it was going to be Florida or Texas. I really like both those states. They're really good from a tax perspective. I really like the way that they operate and the way that they kind of, go by their own rules, which I'm a big fan of. It was between Florida and Texas. And at the end of the day, we decided that Texas made more sense because we had more family there that we wanted to be closer to. Just like that was in August the market how it was in Pennsylvania with our house, we decided, hey, let's just list the house. We knew we'd sell it fast, and we knew we could make a good amount of money on it because we bought the house 8 years ago. So we got at a great time, great interest rates. We paid off a lot of the house, and we knew that by selling the house, we would be able to be 100% debt free and have money in the bank, that we could be in a really good position that wherever we go, we can kind of start fresh and be in a really great spot for our family financially and in the future. So we listed the house. The first people that saw it, they bought it. We closed like 30 days later. They were excited to move in. We had no reason not to. So it was also great because at that time we still have obviously our camper in the Poconos, and we have a seasonal at a spot that we can be there all the time. So we knew, hey, we can close as soon as we want because you can just move in and we can live in the house in the Poconos until we actually relocate to a different area. So we closed quickly. That was in August. And for the entire month of September and into the very first week of October, we lived in the Poconos at our camper, at our favorite campground in the world. And that was it. And then in October, we decided to start kind of our road trip out to Texas. And we stopped in Florida to visit family. We went to Disney. We did the stuff that we've never really gotten a chance to do before with the kids. And then we arrived in Texas in the middle of October, and we've been here since. Yeah, so that's where we're at now. So going back to Scaling Creative, the everyday operations of Scaling Creative, I'm not really that closely a part of. Obviously, I know what we're doing. I know the clients. I get all the work for new clients. I talk strategy with the clients and all that. But the everyday filming, the everyday editing, I don't really do much of at all, other than the stuff that I'm obviously actively filming. But I don't do any of the editing. I haven't done any editing for a while now. And so because of that flexibility, arriving in Texas, I was kind of in this situation of trying to figure out, like, what's the next step? What do I really want to do now that I have a whole new area and I don't necessarily have mandatory things that I have to do every day? The obvious way that I could have just went was to just simply, just like I did in Pennsylvania, just start to build a bunch of clients out here in Texas. I can do that, and I've been talking with some people about potentially doing some work with us, but I'm not super eager, or I'm not super driven to just get tons of work, because it would obviously rely solely on me to do all the filming, and I don't necessarily really want to do that every single day. So I've been in this situation where I'm kind of just figuring out, like, what's next? Like, what do I really want to do? A big reason why you're seeing a lot of content on YouTube is because one of the things that I'm probably most excited about right now is just building my YouTube channel and my personal brand a lot more, because I have some flexibility and because I don't have to really worry about filming that often for clients right now. I've just been really working hard on strategy with YouTube and what I want to do next in that phase. That's where this new channel came along, because it's kind of similar to when I went full-time in my business in Pennsylvania in 2017. Now I'm kind of at this new stage where I kind of want to take you guys along for that journey as well, to tell you a little bit about what is happening and what's going on behind the scenes and my thought process behind things. So that's kind of really where this channel came about as well, is just the idea of wanting to document again, similar to what I did years and years ago that I really miss, and I haven't really got to do that on my main channel in a while. So that's kind of why you're here. That's why you're listening to this. But that's kind of a little bit about the story of how we arrived to Texas. For those of you wondering, we're living in like the Austin area. So not like in downtown Austin, but near Austin. And so it's just a really great area. The weather is amazing, obviously, this time of year. Yes, it gets hot here during the summer, but we're really not going to be here during the summer. Our plan for now is that we still will go back and spend all summer in Pennsylvania at our camper, because we just love the community we've built there, and we cannot imagine not being a part of that. So that's the goal for now, is that we would be there all summer, and then we'd come back here just in time for school to start again and go from there. So we're really excited about it. I'm really excited about the next phase. Really excited about my YouTube channel for the first time in a while. Now I'm just really trying to process, like, what does the next phase of my life with YouTube specifically, like, what does it look like? That's probably the biggest thing that I'm facing right now, is trying to figure out, okay, what does taking it really seriously look like for me on YouTube, right? There are so many different avenues that I've thought about and tried to figure out, like, where do I want my sweet spot to be? I really feel like my main channel, being solely focused to tech, is really an avenue I think makes a lot of sense. I really enjoy tech. I don't necessarily want it to be camera tech like I had kind of in the past, because I don't do that much everyday filming anymore, like I said. So I'm not as obsessed as I used to be with cameras and lenses and all that. So from time to time, I will still post videos about cameras and tech and lenses and all that kind of stuff, but it's going to be much more like everyday tech. And my concept of the channel is like tech made simple. And the idea is that I'm not trying to be one of those crazy tech reviewers that know every detail about every piece of tech, and they'll tell you all the specs and all that. Like, that's just not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in doing videos about tech that help people understand why that piece of tech might make sense for them or not make sense for them. So if I'm reviewing a phone, for example, it's not going to be about, this has a 37 megapixel camera and a 6,000 milliamp battery. It's going to be what this camera will do different than the camera that you might have on your phone already, what this battery life will look like compared to the phone that you currently have. So making it simple. I realize that a huge amount of the people that watch my channel, like 98% of my people, or my views, I should say, are from non-subscribers. And yeah, it's annoying because it'd be sweet if more people would just subscribe. But at the end of the day, I just know that YouTube's just different than it, I feel like, used to be. So if most of my views are coming from non-subscribers, it tells me that all I need to really do is focus more on just creating videos that people are searching for. The subscriber count doesn't really matter. What matters is just putting out videos that are on topics that people would search for. And that was a big factor into obviously why I wanted to create this channel. Was I missed the idea of just talking to the camera and sharing things about life and about business and about what I'm passionate about outside of work. I didn't have an outlet for that. And so this gives me an outlet again to do that type of video, just like this and just like my podcast. So a lot of the videos on this channel will actually be in audio form as well on the podcast, because I want to be able to obviously put out long form content that gets more into this type of stuff. So, but anyway, that's how we ended up here. And there's a lot of randomness in this episode. And hopefully you've utilized the playback button and the speed button on YouTube or the podcast, that you can listen to this in 1x, 2x, 3x. I listen to like all my podcasts in 2x. Hopefully you do too. It'll save you some time. But would love to know your thoughts too on how you're enjoying the channel so far. I don't want to say that I'm going to daily vlog, but I do feel like the non-pressure that I now have with this channel, because you're only going to follow this channel if you want kind of that raw, unfiltered look behind the scenes. And I'm no longer kind of trying to find that balance of like, will this work or will this not work? It's like, this is only going to stay this. And in the same way that I used to feel the difficultness of when I want to post a tech review on a channel like that I previously had, like my normal channel, I'd always feel like, well, that's not going to really work because my subscribers are there to learn more about me and whatever. But now that my channel has so far shifted to the only videos that perform super well are tech-based reviews and vehicle stuff and all that, that's just the way that I'm going to stay. And then I can use this channel to do everything else and not feel like I have the pressure of, will this work or will this not? So there might be random 90-second videos on this channel that are just raw, uncut looks behind the scenes, and then I won't feel like I have to worry about polishing them or making the views and the YouTube algorithms like things and the thumbnails and titles and all that. So if you can, I would recommend that you hit that bell button on the subscribe if you haven't already, because most likely, I don't really think YouTube is going to recommend this channel that often because it might be super random. But I know that the people listening to this, you watching this or listening to this, however you're doing it, are interested in more of a raw, uncut look behind the scenes. So hopefully this will help answer some of the questions that I get a lot from you guys that I can't really put anymore on the channel. That's it. We're in Texas now. We're super thrilled to be here for now. That's kind of a little bit of the story. If you have any specific questions, feel free to comment or send me a DM on Instagram. If you're listening to this on the podcast, obviously you can't really comment on the podcast. So feel free to just shoot me a DM if that's easiest for you. And then we'll get to more conversations very, very soon. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you very much. And I hope you're doing fantastic. Let's catch up again soon.